Batman and Jason Bourne, and they're just like tripping over each other. That was just
and titty twisters are giving each other. Like I was like, now that's friendship right there, boys. That's friendship.
You gotta fight dirty.
Hello and welcome to the What's the Verdict podcast. I'm JJ, your host. I'm here with my co-host. First down there on the end is Javier.
What's up, jerks?
Next we have Mattson.
Better red than dead.
And finally we have Ian.
Say some shit.
He stole that from me.
Insert here.
I mean,
what
not
I was
really.
told to say.
We just wanted him to say some shit, so he did. All right, so today we're going to be talking about Ford versus Ferrari. We've all seen it, some of us multiple times.
Vroom, vroom.
Yeah, there's going to be spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, we recommend you go see it first, unless you don't really give a shit, and then listen away. So yeah, let's get started. First of all, let's just get some overall thoughts, I think, and then we'll get into some deep dives on this specific topics. For me, I just thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I have no other way to say it. I came out and literally told Casey we have to go see that again.
For me, I was really excited. I mean, you tell me Cars, Matt Damon, Christian Bale, like, I'm there. And I was there. I'm very happy.
The thing that I thought was super cool is Christian Bale came out of his acting of Vice as Dick Cheney, where he was like this big old dude. So apparently, Christian Bale lost like 70 pounds for this film. And
It's going to wreak havoc going up and down like he does.
right? Like,
It's a very Christian Bale thing to do.
it totally is.
I was going to tell Javier he should probably do that too.
I mean, The Machinist.
Wow.
If you've ever seen The Machinist, that is like the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Have you guys seen The Machinist?
No, I haven't
Holy
seen that.
shit, we're going to have to add that to the list.
Or him in The Fighter.
And The Fighter. But see, here's
yeah.
the thing is, even though The Fighter is as thin and gross as he looked, The Machinist, he's like 10 pounds lighter. Like, you can see his ribs, and it's crazy. So we'll put that on the list.
You can clearly tell that that's what we took away from Ford vs. Ferrari.
Yeah, is that Christian Bale was...
The man can lose weight.
The man can change some
Dude,
weights.
I
you
just
know?
thought that was fascinating. Like, he's done that in several movies, but he did it in this one again. And yeah, I just thought that was crazy.
I think Javier has a crush on Christian
Who
Bale.
doesn't have a crush on Christian
I don't.
Bale?
I actually don't enjoy Christian Bale most of the time.
Wow.
If I'm being honest. But I
Hit
loved
and
him in
miss.
this movie.
Hit and miss.
So,
But yeah, no, I loved it as well. Wanted to watch it again as soon as I finished it. Acting is great. And not just like one actor or actress stands out, but they all did awesome.
yeah, so I think the consensus right now is it's a pretty good movie. So let's talk a little bit more about that. Ian walked us right into acting. So let's talk about the acting. What do you guys think?
Oh, let me go first. So as you kind of heard me mention, Matt Damon, Christian Bale, that's kind of enough said for me. I thought both actors just played to their parts so well. Matt Damon as Carroll Shelby being the charismatic kind of seller, go-getter, and then Christian Bale just being this like sophisticatedly annoying British driver. I mean, could you have hit it on the nail on the head any better? The whole character progression throughout the movies what really sold me on this.
What about you, Javier? I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
I don't think I've ever been like super disappointed with a Matt Damon or Christian Bale performance. Like, and even in some of their shittier movies,
Fair
I'm
point.
like, they're still pretty good. To Ian's point, I think everyone actually did super well in this. Actually, so I don't know, what does Christian Bale actually sound like? Was he using an accent the whole time?
Yeah, he kind of, I don't know. He had an accent because I believe Ken Miles was British, right?
Yes.
Well, so's Christian Bale.
Yeah.
Oh,
He was using a deeper slang of British. He did change his natural accent. His natural accent is not what he was using in the film. Obviously, it's not. It's like us doing a different American accent, right? But
Gotcha.
he definitely was using a different accent than his natural one.
I've got mad respect for actors who maintain an accent the whole movie through.
even Matt Damon had a little bit of one as well, right?
Yeah, Carroll
More of a
Shelby
drawl.
was
More
very
of a drawl,
Southern.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and he maintained a good Southern accent. I know it sounds stupid, but being from the South, living there for a long time, like I hear it and I go, that's a shitty accent. But his wasn't. It was very good.
I thought it was pretty subtle. Like he would,
Yeah.
Yeah,
he
it
would
was.
pronounce his H's like in wheel, right? Like I thought it was pretty cool.
I do want to talk. Obviously, it's pretty quick that we can talk about, the two main guys. We have Christian Bale and Matt Damon. But I thought Josh Lucas, the guy that played Leo Beebe, was really good at being a villain. I mean,
Yeah.
Oh,
at the end of the day,
Dude.
let's be honest, Leo Beebe wasn't as bad as they made him out to be, but he made you really just want to punch the guy in the face.
oh yeah.
Well, I even went back and forth from Henry Ford II too, for like being on his side to, dude, like come on, stop being such a jerk. I don't know. I was back and forth on him. Sometimes I really liked his character.
He was a dick.
And other times, yeah.
Yeah, he was.
What Madsen said.
They had a strong supporting cast, though.
Absolutely.
The guy who plays Lee Iacocca, and also even his kid Pete is from Wonder. With
yeah.
He did a good job. He was kind of the heartfelt individual.
That
He
kid's
connected
pretty
you
good.
through to the end.
Well, and even the wife Molly, when they're in the the station
Oh,
wagon.
when she's driving crazy, and they're like,
tell me what they where were you?
I was watching this with my wife and I actually turned to her and I was like, I actually really appreciate scenes like that, because I think in a lot of movies they make out the wives to be this like crazy chick who's stopping the guy from finding his dream. But his wife is like, don't you dare lie to me or I will drive us off a fucking cliff. And I just really respect that.
and I think for this movie, it's important to highlight the acting carried the movie. The plot is strong, and I think it hopefully stays true to kind of the story throughout. But it's not like this movie has guns or violence or sex or things like that. It's just staying true to these characters, and I thought they did the job needed to carry the story along.
What I liked about that is without violence, guns, or sex, it was an exciting movie.
And for Javier to say that, guys, the more you get to know him, that's shocking to say.
That is shocking.
It is shocking.
It is.
Like, I loved this movie. Like, I thought, last time we talked about 1917 being a pretty movie, this was a very pretty movie. Like, when they were recording the race scenes, like, this was very cool. They were driving in the rain, in the daylight, at night. Like, they were driving cool cars. And I'm not talking like Fast and Furious pretty. I'm talking like this was just a well done.
Fast and Furious pretty.
Yeah, because you've got sexy cars, the sexy chicks. That's Fast and Furious. No, this is cool. This was classy pretty.
Classy pretty.
Yes.
What are all the different kinds of pretty, Javier?
Yeah, there's sexy pretty, there's pretty pretty, there's classy pretty, there's pretty cool. I think that's it. That's all
I love this conversation.
I'm confused.
What's all the different pretties? And we lean on Javier for this particular version. I mean, all right. So we talked about the acting. Obviously, it was really good acting because it did drive a story very well. So let's talk about that. The character progression throughout. I mean, when you have this kind of acting, obviously we have a start to these characters and an end to these characters. Talk about the impact that made on you guys as you watch this movie.
I'm going to go first again here. Spoiler alert. Ken Miles dies. So I kind of knew that this was going to happen, but I didn't know. But man, when it happened at the end, and we talked about his kid and how he was always with him. You saw that him being a dad, wanting to involve his son, and his son was there when he died on the test track. I mean, one, what a way to die doing what you love, but two, the journey that it took to get him there and what was accomplished, even though he didn't technically win Le Mans because they took it from him, and then he was just still doing what he loved and grinding and being who he was and going out that way. It left me leaving the movie knowing that you chase your dreams, you achieve some of them, others you don't achieve, but it doesn't change who you are. And I really thought the movie epitomized that for me, and Ken Miles and Christian Bale hit that home, that his character was someone that worked, cared for his family, and just freaking loved to drive.
I think Ken Miles had the coolest character in this
Oh,
whole
of course.
movie. Because there's a few things he is. I kind of related to him a lot because he has a short fuse. He's kind of crazy, but he's a great dad, and a great husband. He's willing to give up all of that and just get a 9-to-5 job to support his family at one point in the movie. Anyway, so he's crazy, right? And he's short fuse, and he's told to slow down so that they can get that epic picture. And he's basically fuck that. And he immediately breaks a lap record. And then he does slow down. And his wife, watching it was good for you.
Yeah.
It's not all about him. And he kind of had that realization on the track. And then he's robbed of the win. And he immediately just starts talking about how to make the car better and faster. I just think that is such a cool arc for him that I don't think a few years before that would have been the same Ken Miles that we saw.
No, I do too. I like that he goes from having a fight outside the grocery store.
Right.
Because he's like, you're such a bastard because you didn't take me with you and let me drive. And so they're having this fist fight in the middle of this place. They get over it. They have a soda pop in the middle of the fucking road. And then at the end, the only thing that you get out of him after he just got screwed is, I just got fucked. And then he walks away and goes, how do I make this car cooler? And then he just goes back to being him. So I definitely agree there.
Right. I think what I loved about Ken Miles is just, again, that passion that shines through. Not often do you find somebody that gets to do what they love at the peak, to the best of their ability. And I think you get to see that in Ken Miles, which is really awesome. I also thought it was kind of interesting. We kind of touched around like what was true to the story and what was kind of embellished, and kind of going back to even like Peter, he really did see his dad die. Like that kind of like hit me hard. Like, wow, like what would that be like? The characters, they really hit home. You get brought into their life, and it was really hard to see Ken Miles go.
I thought Carroll Shelby's character was ballsy. There's a part where he talks about he basically banked his whole shop on this endeavor, this project working. And there was times when Henry Ford II basically pulled the rug out from under him, and then he had that meeting with him in his office to basically say, you either give me the power or this isn't going to work. And then the other time when he took Henry Ford into the Ford GT to show him, if he didn't do that, then the other character, the guy second in the command, I can't remember his name, if he didn't do that, he had to show Henry Ford, look, this is what you can do. And that's, I haven't looked this up, but I wonder if Henry Ford really cried, if that scene was...
That scene actually didn't happen.
I would assume that was embellished, but for the movie's sake, I was like, damn, like... Yeah, no, but it fit his character arc because he rolled the dice. And he did it again in Le Mans, whether this is true or not, where he took the stopwatch from the Italian crew, and he's the one that... Italian. And he's the one that said, hey, go over 7,000 RPMs, like, do it, make it happen. And he rolled the dice again. And throughout the movie, that's what he did. He rolled the dice on himself, rolled it on Ken Miles, and just knew, we have the people, we have the crew, I have the vision, let's get it done.
Yeah, that him getting Ford into a car didn't actually happen, but that scene sticks out so much to me from that movie.
Sweet.
That you just kind of go, man, there's not really anything else that you can say. Once you get done and you think he's either going to come out of that and be so livid, but he was so emotional about how cool that was, and even though it was frightening, like he just loved it. But it was the heart of Carroll Shelby, like you said, and I think...
You could see it being true.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and he, a lot of the things that they did isolate. They do talk about the fact that they did have a meeting. He didn't put him in the car and drive it around, but he did isolate him from Leo Beebe to make sure that they could continue on and that this was the guy that was going to be the driver. So there was a lot of conversations that they talked about there. But I do love Carroll Shelby's progression throughout this because he's such an arrogant prick at the beginning. He just is. He's writing checks that his ass can't cash. Right? There's a moment where you're like, ooh, how's he going to pull this shit off? And then
he literally sold the same car to 3 people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
He's such an arrogant prick. And then at the end, I think the most impactful moment for me throughout the progression of all these characters is when he's talking to Ken Miles' son at the end. And he doesn't even go over to Molly. He just sees her on the porch. They nod at each other. And that's the end of that. Like, the original Carroll Shelby you see in this movie would have been in there trying to talk and, be the quick talker and smooth everything over. Even that situation, that's how I see that as I go. That's a very different person. Entrust to this son how cool his dad was and how good of a friend his dad was, and then doesn't have to say anything to the mom. They just look at each other and they know. They communicate just through their, the little nod, and that's the end of it. So I really liked his progression as well.
And I think with Christian Bale and Matt Damon, one thing they did an excellent job on was playing off of and interacting with each other. Like the relationship between Carroll Shelby and Ken Miles is just super fun to watch. Like you talked about the fight that they have, the fist fight with the groceries. And there's even one part where like Carroll Shelby looks at this can of soup and he's like, I could smack him on the head with this can of soup, but instead he goes for like the bag of bread. It starts like with the bag of bread. It's just little details like that are super entertaining to see between these two characters, and I think they did an excellent job with it.
In that scene, I couldn't help but think of like both of these actors are well-trained martial artists. You got like Batman and Jason Bourne, and they're just like tripping over each other. That was just
and titty twisters are giving each other. Yeah. Like I was like, now that's friendship right there, boys. That's friendship.
You gotta fight dirty.
So yeah, definitely some great things that the acting led to some really great story arcs. So let's talk about visuals. Visually, what do you guys think about this movie?
Oh, I'm going to repeat myself again. It was a cool, pretty movie. So
Classy pretty.
So they had, first of all, starting with the cars, these were dope cars. Even like Ferrari, who's supposed to be the bad guy, like they had cool cars. But I don't know if you guys noticed, but like the cinematography changed whenever they were racing. And I thought that cinematography was so cool. It was like darker, but the colors were more vibrant. And I thought like during that scene in Le Mans when they were racing through the rain at night, that looked so cool.
Scary cool.
So I have a question because there was one thing that I wasn't a huge fan of. What do you guys think about like when he went into the brake issues both times? that you saw that and you could see them light up. Now, I know less than shit about whether or not that can actually happen. And like you actually see them glow red like that. But to me, like visually, I was bothered by it because I was like, I don't think you'd see that. I think you'd see smoke. And I understand why they did it because they had to have that visual reference for when it happened during Le Mans that you're like, oh shit, he's about to lose control. But I think there could have been other ways that they did it. I don't know. You guys tell me what you think.
I thought it looked cool. I didn't go into the depth of, man, is that really what it would look like? I just kind of took it as like, oh, brake failure, shoot, that's not good. And I thought at night, because they did it at night too, and it glowed. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was really cool to see, but I just kind of took it at face value.
This goes down to my nitpickiness, right? I think the movie was so good and so well done in a way that made me feel like everything that they were showing me was real, that I couldn't help but go, that just doesn't fit, because to me it didn't seem real. But maybe it is real. Like I said, I don't know if your brakes would do that when you go into whatever they called it and your brakes are just burning up like that.
I don't know either, but it was believable for me because they were going from like 210 miles an hour down to first gear. He was hitting those turns.
Fair enough.
So like...
I just want to... So just literally Googling this, the brakes of a car can catch fire for a variety of reasons, with the main causes being improper repairs and careless driving. Brakes can catch on fire when the driver is braking too hard, applying friction to the components when braking the system. So basically, I don't know if it would exactly look like that, but I know with ceramic brakes and having the holes in there, they're supposed to vent heat out. So
yeah, if you burn them up that good,
probably... maybe that's more legit than it wasn't looking.
It was pretty. You're sitting there watching, and you're like, "Ooh, look at the pretty orange circle. That's gonna come out badly."
My one beef, and it wasn't so much with like how it was filmed or anything like that, but at the end when Ken Miles is robbed of this victory, everybody knows that he in the clear could have won it. BB has him slow down, which I found out was true. BB actually did have him slow down. He was the one that suggested it, but he kind of suggested it out of like, hey, we don't want you guys racing and one wreck could ruin it all. We want to make sure that we get across the finish line. We got first, second, third. Let's make this a team victory. But anyways, as when I think I don't know who it actually was, if it was McLaren, but being that teammate and seeing like Ken Miles slow down, go across the finish line altogether, I would have a really, really hard time taking the win on a technicality like that. Like I'd be like, no, refusing it. That part bugged me so much.
It makes you feel better. McLaren died like 3 years later.
Yeah.
Doesn't make me feel better.
Don't get me wrong though. His kids and all his grandkids all made a shit ton of money on his name though.
Yeah.
I wonder if the other drivers like McLaren just thought Ken Miles was a dick and they just didn't like him, and because I know some of them didn't like him because he was just better.
From what I understand, the idea was like this was a whole conspiracy from the beginning, and that like McLaren may have been a part of that from the beginning. So he might have been unrepentant.
It's possible. I think everything that I've read, because this was another thing this movie did to me. I walked out of the theater and was like, I need to know more about the real story.
Yeah.
So I read a ton about it, and there's so many different sides of that story, right? The one thing I picked up from reading is that Leo Beebe, while he was a dick, wasn't like a conspiratorial dick, according to everybody that talks about it.
That sounds exactly like what a conspiratorial dick would say.
Well, and if it was him saying that, I would, I'd agree with you, but it was all of the people around him that used to say that. So, but who knows? No matter what, these drivers know the rules of Le Mans, right? Like there's got to be somewhere along the line that these other two guys knew that there was going to be an issue with who actually won this thing. And I'm kind of with you.
I don't know. Do they though? Because
maybe
it kind of
not.
sounded like they were bringing out new rules every year.
Well, that's fair. I think any sporting event like that, the rules change, right? So maybe you're not wrong. Well, to me, I was still confused. It took me a long time to read. I came out going, now, wait a minute. Because he drove farther, they had to drive the same damn distance. But it took me a while to read and finally figured out why. Because they crossed at the same time, he actually won.
I also thought he was laps ahead. What happened? And what I was reading was that he lost that head start because of his brake change.
Interesting.
He did lose a lap because of the brake change.
Yeah, but only a lap. Right?
But he was only a lap ahead of those guys.
No, in the movie, Lee Iacocca explains that he's laps ahead. And I think he was 4 laps ahead of the next Ford car.
4 laps?
Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to go back and read again. Because if he was that far ahead, I don't know how it would plan out. Now, I'm sure he lost a little bit when he let them catch up. I don't know. The whole thing's so confusing when you read about it.
Google.
I know. Google's great.
Taking us back to original point of just like the visuals to kind of round things out. I really enjoyed where they had the test track back in the desert and just the visuals of these really brightly painted cars, the fast speeds. the orange cones and just the scene of kind of Ken Miles dying in this test track, and all you don't even see the wreck, you just see the smoke. And you know that everyone starts to freak out and they get in the car and kind of run out there. That was pretty impactful to me.
This isn't a visual, but the sound of the cars.
We were going to talk about the music.
Yeah.
I would just say it's the music of the engine.
Oh, the music. They could have no soundtrack, and it's just the revving of these cars. That would be enough for me.
Well, and that's it's a fair point that you say, Javier, because I don't remember the music at all, which is strange for me.
Me neither.
Because I'm such a music guy that usually that sticks with me, but I don't remember what music was playing in this movie. But I'll tell you, I do remember the sounds. Like in Le Mans, during that race, like you can hear just a subtle hint of the crowd. You can hear the raindrops. Like they played such an intense version of this high definition sound. And the cars, every time they're screaming around, even when his brakes goes out and he crashes into the hay along the side, like all that sound was so impactful. Like it just kind of put you in the movie really
Even
well.
when Ken Miles is listening in through the radio and you hear the cars like going around the track.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, that attention to detail with these cars is so cool.
Yeah, and I love that it wasn't just easy to hear him, right? So you had to fight kind of to listen because they left all the ambient noise in, which is real, right? It's not like that's just coming through crystal clear like we're sitting here in this half silent room. It's there's a lot of noise going on, so I really like that. It was very good sound engineering for sure. Sweet. So let's do this. We're coming up on ending time. We got a few minutes left. Let's go around and each one of us kind of talk about our recommendations. We'll give a rating. We'll see how well that sticks, but let's give our verdicts. Let's give let's say 1 to 10 rating, and whether you'd see it a second, or for those of us that are overzealous, a third or fourth time.
Am I starting?
Yeah, Javier, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I would watch this movie again. I think this is totally worth watching for like all the reasons we talked about. I would watch it again. Out of a rating, I would probably give this like an 8.5, maybe a 9 out of 10. Like I really enjoyed this movie. Yeah. This might be one of my favorites.
It's a good one.
For me, Matt's in here. Definitely think it's worth watching again for the sole fact I've seen it once, but there's a lot of things I wanted to look up and to determine what's real, what's not real, learn more about these characters, and for that alone, that's definitely going to lead me to rewatching this movie. And I think it'll do the same for you. Like JJ was talking about, you leave the theater wanting to know more, and immediately you're like, oh, that's what the Cobra is about, all these custom Mustangs and things that you see, and you're like, I need to learn more about Carroll Shelby. I need to learn more about Ken Miles and what happened to his son and things like that. So for that fact alone, definitely worth a rewatch, along with the acting and just the sound and the visuals. Rating for me, I think I'm going to go a solid 7. Really, my only knock in the movie is there's times when it runs a little long for me, and just knowing that time investment. That's why I'd knock it a little bit, but overall worth a watch. Solid 7. Definitely something I'm going to watch again.
Boo.
Yeah, that kind of surprised me. For me, I will be watching this one again, so I definitely recommend others do. And even other people, family members, various walks of life, I've yet to find somebody who hasn't really enjoyed this movie, so it's worth watching a second time. As far as the rating, I'm probably up there with Javier in the 9 range, 8 to 9 range. There wasn't anything that I walked away from going like I didn't enjoy this part of that movie, so definitely would recommend watching it again.
I'm right there with you guys. I can't even say that I would watch it a second time. I'd watch it a fourth time. In fact, I know I'm going to. Casey's been out of town for the whole week, so I watched it again. I don't know, was it Thursday that I told you guys it was available on Prime? Yeah. So on Thursday night, I watched it. As soon as I got home, I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then I'm going to be watching it again tonight. I invited Casey's back home. She got home last night, so she's like, we got to watch this movie again. I'm like, okay, we'll do it. And I'm excited for it. That's the crazy part. Like I'm not a rewatcher a lot, but this movie 4 times.
Seems like it.
Yeah. Can I just say one more thing?
Sure.
I think as far as the plot goes, I really like movies where the good guy doesn't necessarily win. And I think they did really well with that, where it doesn't feel like a broken movie, but the ending isn't what you wanted it to be. And
sure.
I think that's cool.
Bring us home with your rating, JJ.
Yeah, so I'm a solid 9. I do agree that the one knock I do have, the reason it's not a 10 for me, is because it's a 2.5 hour movie. And I feel like there's probably about 10-15 minutes they could have cut from it and it wouldn't have impacted the movie at all.
Agreed.
That being said, I still think it's probably top 5 movies for me all time, just because of how much I get excited to watch it the 4th time as much as I did the 1st and 2nd. So
I'm excited for this rating system because you guys will find I think I'm going to be pretty tough But I'm excited to see how we hold ourselves.
I'm
on
either
this.
like an 8.5 or a 9 or like a 2.
I can see that. There's no in between for Javier.
If I could rate 1917 again, it would be a 2.
Ooh, that's rough. See, I'd be a 6.
But we digress.
Yeah, we do digress.
Ford vs. Ferrari, ladies and gentlemen, go see it. See it again. Great movie.
Yep. Go check it out, and that's the verdict.